Why do you even train? If you came across this video, chances are you're not doing this to look big like Sam Sulek, but rather you want to have that aesthetic V-taper physique. The one that gets attention, especially from women, when you walk into the room. But to build this physique, you have to train some muscles that mainstream fitness YouTubers won't talk about. The muscles that are actually crucial to max out your appearance. So right now it's like you're stepping over a mountain to grab rocks. What are we doing, bro? But the good news is, by the end of this video, you'll know the exact muscles to train and how to train them most effectively to get you looking more aesthetic faster than 90% of other guys in the gym. My name's Nick, and I went from this to this, and on my way up the mountain of fitness, I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. I guess you could say that I stumbled across a few false peaks along my fitness journey that were basically dead ends. So today I'm going to show you the 3 main muscle groups that, if you train, will get you guaranteed to look more aesthetic. Plus, we'll talk about how we can implement some exercises to train these without adding extra time to your gym workout. And any of these muscles can be stimulated to grow using only 10 minutes of your entire workout. So let's get started. Number 1, the most important muscle to look more aesthetic and get that assertive V-taper physique is by training the lateral delts. This is basically the middle part of your shoulder that doesn't get trained through any pushing or pulling movements. So if you follow mainstream fitness advice just to do compound lifts, then you will miss training this muscle group. Something that is so common that I see almost all other guys do in their routines when they're training chest is immediately after they finish a pec movement like bench press or any sort of press, they go straight into overhead shoulder press. Now this, in my opinion, is dumb because for guys who are trying to grow their physiques, your front delts, being the front part of your shoulder, is already maximally stimulated and already like fatigued after a pushing movement. So in your session, there's no need to add any more front shoulder, front delt movements to stimulate that. And overhead shoulder press, sorry to break it to you, is a dominant front shoulder exercise. Yeah, it does stimulate some of the other parts of the shoulder, but nowhere near maximally enough to really get that round shoulder look. So instead of overhead press, go straight into a lateral raise variation. My favorite is the dual cable lateral raise. This is essentially where you're setting up handles or cuffs in a dual cable machine, and you set it anywhere from your ankle height to hip height, and you take a step away from the machine with them crossed over behind you, and then you just let it fly like a bird. With any lateral raise, you just want to bring your arms out somewhere in front of you, just not directly in front of you, as that will majorly hit the front of the shoulder, but just somewhere out in the 45-degree angle. And as you start to pull, there's the most tension before bringing your arms out to essentially 90 degrees. Now, the way you can implement this in under 10 minutes to your workout is just by doing 3 sets with 90 seconds of rest in between each set. That way you can get it done in under 10 minutes and it'll freaking tear your shoulders apart. If you do it slow and controlled with a pause at the bottom, you will get the best shoulder pump and you'll just feel like a G. The second muscle group that you want to prioritize for looking more aesthetic, which is something that I have done since 2023, is focusing on my upper traps. Now, the trap muscles actually run down your entire spine. So you have lower traps, which are like pretty much where your back extensors and like lower back is. Then you have the mid traps, which is where your mid back is, and then you have the upper traps, which is right around your neck. Most people don't realize this, but if you know how to target and stimulate them right, then you can grow them and just make your physique, when you're wearing clothing and not even that jacked, you can still look more assertive, more dominant, and more aesthetic. It's essentially like adding a shelf to your upper body. When you build this muscle, it makes your neck look bigger even if it's not. And something that I did to really grow my traps was farmer walks. This is essentially where you just grab 2 heavy ass weights that you can barely hold and grip them to your sides and just start walking. And just keep going until your grip gives out, and it gives an insane stretch to your traps, as well as give your forearms an insane stimulus as it challenges your grip strength. So you just go until you can't hold the weight no more, and it just really gets those traps engaged. Any shrug through a Smith machine or a shrug machine, or perhaps just dumbbells, works just fine. Now, something to note about the upper traps is that these can take a lot of loading, but they also don't need a lot of time to recover. Meaning that just like the lateral delts, you can stimulate these with set after set with minimal rest. So again, you can hit a set of shrugs or farmer's carries, farmer's walks, and then rest for 90 seconds and then go back again. Do this with 2 sets for 2 exercises for the upper traps and you're good to go. And the third muscle group to really focus on to look more aesthetic is the lats, specifically the lower lats. Now for most beginners, a lot of them won't be able to do a bunch of pull-ups when they start joining the gym. But if you can, prioritize these. Pulling movements where you're resisting a weight from above puts the biggest stretch on your lats and helps promote the width of your frame that emphasizes the V-taper. In the beginning, I couldn't do pull-ups, so what I did was I went to the pull-up machine, the assisted machine. And this was great because the tension was maintained on the lats throughout the entire movement and completely removed the gravity component, allowing me to get a full, safe stretch on my lats at the bottom and a nice squeeze at the top. Otherwise, aside from pull-ups, my favorite movement is the JPG lat pull down. This is personally my favorite to get a mind muscle connection on my lats, and it's a single arm variation, meaning that you can just switch from one arm to the next with minimal rest in between sets. And if you're a beginner just starting out, you barely need to rest in between each arm, as the weight and the intensity won't be as high. Smashing out 2 to 3 sets of this single arm variation, meaning, you know, one set is both arms, one after another, shouldn't take more than 10 minutes as well. Now let's get to how I add these muscle groups to my workouts. So for back, I get the best stimulus in a rep range ranging from normally 8 to 12, meaning that I pick a weight that I know I could fail on in 12 reps or less. And with a lat focused back movement, I make sure that the first set is normally the heaviest. And if in the first set you barely get like 8-9 reps, then for the second and third set, if you do a third set, you can lower the weight slightly by like 10, 5, 20% and get back into the 8 to 12 rep range. That's essentially called a back off set. Now for sets per week, you want to use the guideline of 8 to 15. So anywhere in that range. And if you're a beginner, then you can edge more on the lower end of that. So 8, 9, 10 sets per week. And if you're advanced, then you can move closer and higher up to 13, 14, 15 sets. So an example for this for the lat muscle would be, you could be doing as a beginner 2 sets of a seated row that really emphasizes the lats. So this would be like a neutral grip, preferably close grip, or maybe an underhand grip for the rows, and do 2 sets of that, as well as 2 sets of assisted pull-ups. Now that's 1 session, that's 4 sets. And then in the second session of the week, maybe 4 days later, so let's say you did the first session on Monday, the second session is Thursday, wide grip lat pull downs for 2 sets of 8 to 12, as well as 2 sets of JPG lat pull downs for again 8 to 12 reps. There's your 8 sets of lats per week. That will get you growing your back and your lats at a really good rate. And you don't need to listen to all these bodybuilders telling you that you need crazy amounts of volume. Now for your lateral delts and your upper traps, these can be prioritized at a slightly higher rep range, as they're a smaller muscle group and can take a lot of damage. Especially with traps, you can go to a much higher rep range from like 15 to 20 reps plus. But again, for sets, you want to make sure that you stick within the 8 to 15 set range as a guide, especially since you may not have been prioritizing this muscle group or you've been neglecting this muscle group. Then getting 8 to 15 sets is going to really speed up the growth of these muscles. Just make sure that you're prioritizing these small muscle groups like the upper traps and the lateral delts before other smaller muscle groups. So let's say you have a pull day or a back day. You go in, you hit your lat focused back movements, the biggest muscle groups of the workout. And then after that, you go straight into upper traps or lateral delts to hit all the aesthetic muscle groups. And bro, it's an amazing pump. So definitely do a workout like this. Bro, having a pump in these muscle groups consecutively makes me feel like a new man, especially when I know that back in the day, I used to be the dumb fat kid in school. It's the best feeling, bro. But back to the exercise order, make sure you hit these smaller muscle groups before other small muscle groups that typically go with these workouts. Like after chest, you would normally hit triceps, front delts, or something else, but instead go straight from chest to lateral delts. On a pull day or a back day, people would normally go from back to biceps or maybe rear delts, but instead go straight to upper traps. And it's so hard for people to break the mold for this because that's what most people do. But again, like we said earlier, we're not trying to step over the mountain to pick up pebbles and rocks. We're trying to get the fucking benefits of the mountain. And a key part of this is knowing that after I started focusing on these muscle groups, these aesthetic muscle groups, everything I wore, my dressing and my attire just felt way better. Like, yeah, I didn't have massive arms or a particularly small waist. But I'll say for you, bro, that having these muscle groups developed will give you like a plus 200 aura and way more confidence in daily life. And if you want to follow the exact workout that I do to this day to hit all those aesthetic muscle groups and really build that frame, then go click the link in the pinned comment right below the video. By clicking this link, you get access to the full workout. So the exercise selection, the reps, the sets, everything all for free. And if you're struggling with staying lean right now and don't want to regain the fat like you're used to, always trying to lose, then regain, constantly in this yo-yo diet loophole, then the video that's on screen right now might be the key to help you solve that issue, bro. Anyways, leave no more lost potential.